This is Brazos Valley Vets, an archive visit with a military veteran from the Brazos Valley. Now, here's your host, Tom Turbyville.
Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Brazos Valley Voices, and we continue our interviews with veterans who were involved with D-Day 75 years ago. Lannes Hope, U.S. Army, World War II. This interview happened October the 26th, 2005. Colonel Lannes Hope did not land on Omaha Beach on D-Day, but he watched it happen from offshore that day. The next day, June the 7th, 1944, D+1, his unit brought the first tanks to Normandy, an eyewitness to what Hollywood called the longest day, and an eyewitness to the horror of death that the invasion left behind. A West Texas boy and a musician and a member of the Texas Tech Band of the 1940s. Here's our interview with Colonel Lannes Hope, U.S. Army, World War II, and D-Day witness. You spoke with the Eagle folks.
Yeah, they did an interview, two young people, new Aggie graduates.
Yes.
In journalism.
Right.
Just got a job with the Eagle.
Mm-hmm.
First job, go out and interview Hope.
Go out and interview Hope.
And
Did they have any clue about
what
World War II was, or much on
they
it?
knew it was a war interview. Pre D-Day thing.
Right.
And that's what they wrote up in the paper. I thought it was pretty good for a first-year journalism person.
But you pretty much had to take them by the hand through the whole thing.
No, they did a good job.
They did a good job. Well, congratulations. That's great. Great for them.
Yeah.
That's great for them.
Yeah.
Great for them.
Well,
so you were National Guard?
National Guard, yes.
National Guard,
there's a long story there. We might as well start in the middle.
Sure.
National Guard, 36th Infantry Division.
Right.
Texas on. And I was in Texas Tech as a freshman out there.
I went to Texas Tech.
You did? When?
Yes, I did. A few years after you.
Yeah.
I started in 1966, from 66 to 72.
If I would have gone straight through, I'd have been class of 43.
Is that right?
But of course, I left after the first year.
Yeah.
And went to the Guard and for a year.
Yep.
Stayed 5.5 or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an off-the-old story.
My first year, I was in a dorm called Thompson Hall. That was an old dorm. That might have been there when you were there.
Sure.
It was right across the street from the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's where I stayed. My freshman year was Thompson Hall.
Well,
Thompson and Gaston Hall were right there.
I've forgotten what the name of my dorm was. Mine was next to College Avenue.
Right. It was right there.
Brand new.
Yeah. Yeah.
I moved
so it was right there in the front.
Yeah.
Right there in the front of the campus there.
Across the street from the drugstore.
Yeah.
And,
right. Well, it's Broadway Drug.
Yeah.
Is that what it was called then? Was it Broadway? It was Broadway Drug.
Yeah.
I think it's a clothes store now or something like that. I don't know what it is.
I haven't been out very often in recent years.
Yeah, I get to go out there every once in a while. So anyway, go ahead.
Well, this afternoon we're sort of deciding how we're going to go on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as I understand it, you want some before the war, during the war, and some after the war. Is that right?
Well, the thing is, I have 27 and a half minutes to do this show.
Well,
have you seen the show? Have you seen the TV show?
I know about it.
Okay.
They've told me about it.
Okay. It's on KAMU, and you'll be my 28th
Who's been before
guest.
me? Who before me?
Well, some of the
You've been one or two here and there.
Some of the world. I've done all. I've done World War II. I've done Vietnam. I've done some Desert Storm. I just finished doing my first soldier from Iraq, a young man named Tyson Vocal, and but mostly World War II that I've done. Who have I done? My first show was with Dr. Jim Cooper. Dr. Jim Cooper.
Yeah.
He was a physician in World War II and in Korea. Did Al Hansen. Do you know Al? Al Hansen. A lot of these guys are VFW guys. Sonny Franzi.
The no Franzi family.
Yes. And Spec Gammon was wounded at the Battle of the Bulge. You know Spec?
Yeah. Didn't know that.
Right. He was wounded at the Battle of the Bulge. Did starting to forget names now, but I guess of the 27 that I've done, about probably 15 of them have been World War II, 15 or 16 have been World War II. That's the ones that I mostly do. But what we do is we'll be over at KMU on Wednesday at about 1:15, and we start the show at 1:30, and they'll put you in a chair and I'll be in a chair. We'll just be talking to each other in a couple of chairs, just you and I, and that's all we do. They'll put a mic on you, and they'll get their cameras ready and all of that, and you and I will just have a conversation, and I'll kind of guide the conversation.
Okay.
So that for the timing was. So unfortunately, we can't get to a whole lot of background because that 27 and a half minutes goes pretty fast.
Yeah. Well.
But obviously, your story is your involvement with D-Day. I mean, that's the main part of your story. Although I know that your service involved a whole lot of other things too. But just sort of take me, if you will.
Well.
When you
West Texas.
Right.
Went to Slayton High School, graduated Border High School in '39, enrolled for 1 year at Texas Tech. My dad was first of all a farmer and a rancher, and then he was a railroad fireman and engineer most of my life, working on Santa Fe out of Lubbock and Slayton. And large family, and when I went to Texas Tech, well, I have to say, as a general background, I think you ought to know I was a Depression child. Dad's out of work, and we did cheap farm labor for 2, 3, 4 years before he got back to work again. I worked in the fields, right alongside him. Times were tough.
Sure.
And so I went to Tech. Didn't know whether I was going to find the money or go or not. I'll never forget, I applied to A&M, got their catalog, and the catalog says the cost will be about $815 for a year, room, board, and books and tuition. And I didn't have anywhere near that much money.
Sure.
So I got a small-time job the first semester. It fell through, and I went in debt for my dormitory room for the first semester. But then they provided me with a job on campus at, I don't know what, 50 cents an hour, I think, so I could pay back that loan that I owed the university. So I finished the first year and didn't have any money, and worked a little bit that summer in a dance band out in Ruidoso, New Mexico. Came back in the fall, and my dad gave me $50 to start school. That's the only money he could give me. And so I knew that wasn't going to make it. About that time, they passed the draft law, September 40. And so a lot of people at Tech jumped up and joined the National Guard to get their year over with. And I was one of them. So I joined this group. The National Guard in Lubbock had a band in it. I'm a musician. And the director was going to be my high school and college mentor. Frankly, he recruited a bunch of us to come in and join his band. So we did. In all, I think 32. I got a picture of this. One of the things I discovered here not long ago. I was thumbing my way through the Sanders Center, the library over there.
Yes, sir.
And I found an annual for the 36th Division National Guard when they went to summer camp in 1940, which was summer before I joined them in October. And this is what they look like. Look at that uniform. Lace boots.
Wow.
Khaki pants.
This was the summer before you joined them, though, right?
Yeah. I joined that unit. I joined that band unit.
131st.
131st Field Artillery.
And this is the band section. What'd you play?
Played trumpet.
You're a trumpeter.
Of course, I'm not in that picture.
Right, because you weren't there
I
yet.
wasn't there yet. And but a bunch of those guys were there, and I knew them and soldiered with them for 2 years before I went away to OCS and made an officer out of my staff in the tank corps. And by the way, that's the summer uniform.
Wow.
And the sidearm was not a saber, but it was a 38 pistol mounted on the left side, cross draw,
I'll be darned.
if you be. And that's what we carried for a sidearm.
But that's the same uniform you wore
That's the kind of uniform I wore for a year,
and played the trumpet.
a little more. Gave me a World War I overcoat,
Uh-huh.
tied at the neck, went to your ankles.
Yeah.
It was heavy wool. And then that winter first winter we spent out at Lubbock was cold.
Yeah.
And it felt pretty good.
What kind of music did y'all play? Band marching
Mostly
music?
band marches, but some pop stuff.
Sousa? John Philip Sousa type
John
stuff?
Philip Sousa and all that.
Yeah.
This guy right here was a local stage band organizer, director of
Right.
Ned Bradley. He's older than the rest of us. And some of his stage band are in there also, because they went to summer camp all together, and most of them are a little bit older, 28, 30, 33.
Yeah.
And they were real ripe to be drafted. So they were all glad to stay in the band with him and go to get their year over with.
Exactly.
And so those guys I know real well. This one was sent out to another unit, and besides the band, I don't know if it's why, but he ended up going as reinforcement for MacArthur. He was on the high seas when D-Day came the next year, and was in prison for 3.5 years. He was a high school schoolmate of mine too. This guy was, and several others were high school schoolmates of mine, and I knew them real well. A lot of them are graduating seniors at Texas Tech.
Yes.
They want to get their year over with.
So October of 1940, you joined the National Guard.
National Guard. And we moved to Brownwood, stayed there a year. Moved to Walters, stayed there a year, still in the band. At that time, everybody was going to the Air Force, getting wings, or going to OCS and getting their gold bars.
Right.
And I went to the Armored at Fort Knox, Kentucky. From there, they shipped me out to the 4th Armored Division.
Right.
The elite.
So you're in the Army now, right?
Yeah.
You're an Army guy now.
Army is all the way.
Army all the way. Okay.
Not National Guard then.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
They're National Guard.
When you went to Kentucky, you were Army.
Yeah.
Right.
When I went to Brownwood, Texas, I was Army.
I see. Okay.
We filled up. Our vacancies were filled up with draftees after we moved to Brownwood.
Right.
So it was Camp Bowie. Are you a Texan?
Yes, sir.
You know about Camp Bowie then?
Yes, sir.
And Camp Walters and
Right.
all those other places. And so I finished my 90-day tour OCS and joined the 4th Armored Division on the desert. Patton had just left there and went to North Africa.
So tell me exactly where you were?
In the
Where'd you
desert
go?
in California.
Desert in California, okay.
In the Mojave Desert.
So what year are we now? Are we in
We're up to 43.
1943? Okay.
Yeah, 2 years.
Okay.
Went in at 41.
Right.
This is 40.
Right.
Went in at 41,
Right.
almost. 2 years as an enlisted man, and then
So Patton had left North Africa and he was
left for North Africa.
Yes.
And another armored division, ours, moved in and took over his place and started practicing.
I see.
And we figured we were going to the North African desert. That's the reason they had us on the desert out there.
Right.
Made a short trip back. They moved us off the desert moved us back to Brownwood, lo and behold, where I spent my first 2 years. And 4th Armored was there for 6 months before they went overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And but I got itchy feet and decided I'd go over separately. So I volunteered to go as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
With everybody else, and ended up going to England and joining a replacement pool there. Eventually, I joined the unit that was with the 1st Infantry Division, and was scheduled to do the invasion.
Mm-hmm.
Tanks attached to them.
Right.
So we spent 6 months in England getting ready for that. And,
whereabouts in England? Near the southern coast? Or?
In the southwest corner, near Bath and Bristol.
Okay.
Of course, what our main duty was practicing running our tanks all over the countryside, seeing if we could keep them going. And we didn't have very much open country to practice in there like we had on the California desert.
So this would have been like the first 6 months of 1944, is that right? Okay.
Before the invasion.
Before the invasion on June the 7th.
We did one practice landing off the southern coast, and they moved us on to what they call ferries. It was a flat bottom boat like a Mississippi boat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we were supposed to get on and supposed to push us to the beach. And they had assault tanks. The sister battalion had assault tanks that were floating on the water individually.
Right.
They were supposed to do the assault.
Right. These tanks that were floating, they had the flotation collars around them, right? Yes. Right.
Call them DDs.
Mm-hmm.
Dual drive, meaning they had a propeller to drive them as well as tracks to drive them.
Yes.
Duals. Well, that battalion was the 741st, and of course every one of them sunk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the flotation. Yeah. Those flotation collars didn't work very well.
Well, it was designed for waves 5 to 7 feet.
Right.
And you know we had a storm.
Right.
Just before, which almost delayed the whole thing.
Right. The weather. It was supposed to have been the day before, but the weather and Eisenhower delayed it a day.
It improved, but the waves still were not 5 to 7, but 7 to 9 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that 2 feet is what swamped all of those people before they got ashore.
Wow.
So that was our sister battalion, the 741st. We were the 745th.
Mm-hmm.
So we got in there on D-Day, late at night. Well, even the next day after D-Day. I've got the schedule there. Sort of interesting. I dug this out to make a speech for the Lions Club sometime back. There's the schedule. Each one is 5 minutes. 16 of those floating tanks were supposed to come in and shoot up the pillboxes and machine guns so the infantry could come in. And but right after them came some of those tank dozers. I believe they came on LCTs. They didn't have the floating things.
Right.
They had a dozer blade on the front of them. And then after that, the 2 infantry assault companies came. 1 minute. 5 minutes, HR, 1 minute. That's pretty close.
Right.
Then 3 minutes later, the engineer task force was supposed to land and start clearing the mines. Landmines, personnel mine, what have you. Then after that, headquarters of this group came in. And
Infantry regiment?
Infantry regiment, 16th Infantry Regiment. But that's reconnaissance there. 50 minutes. We're now out 2 or 3 hours. Advanced CP of the regiment comes in. They don't come in on the assault wave. Indeed, the battalion came in before them. Then miscellaneous bulldozers. And they didn't come in, they came in on LCTs. That's for 4 or 5 at a time. then B Company Infantry Headquarters, and so forth. Battalion Headquarters. And look at this. H plus 13 hours, we were supposed to arrive. They had all day to get the beach clear.
Right.
And we would come in on this big flat bed thing. We went out, we boarded an LST. That's an 800-foot job.
Right, I know what that is.
And we had our whole tank battalion on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a truck company.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of other stuff on it.
On one LST?
Mm-hmm. We were supposed to unload in this on this ferry type thing and get pushed into the beach, so we wouldn't have to wade deep water.
Right.
Well, the ferry thing never did get there. I don't know what happened to it. But 24 hours later, after we were supposed to get there, somebody in the Navy says, we ought to get these people ashore. They need them. So they offloaded us from the LST to an LCT. That's a smaller craft that can take you further in, and 5 tanks to a boat. So 3 trips of that thing took me to get my tanks off and onto the beach. Okay. And I got there at 1 day plus 13 hours. In other words, I was supposed to get in there about sundown on D-Day.
Right.
Didn't get there till sundown on D+1.
I see. So you were offshore on D-Day?
I was just offshore, looking at my field glasses, looking.
What'd you see?
Oh, a lot of shell bursts, a lot of smoke from. They used smoke to try to hide the thing. The Navy was going up and down the coast shooting at the pillboxes. No German Air Force came over. They come over one time, but they left real quick. So that was it. If I'd known who it was and where to look, I could have seen Earl Rudder going up Pont de Vac in the field glasses.
Right.
But he's on them.
Right.
A mile away down to the right there.
Exactly.
So I finally got ashore, and we started operating immediately, clearing out plots of land of the beach, being sure it was clear, and the infantry could get in through there. And in about a week's time, maybe 10 days, I was 13 miles inland. Had been fighting all that time.
Moving slow.
Off and on.
Yes.
A little town called Caumont. And we sit there for 3 weeks while Montgomery played around up at his end of the beach where he was supposed to get that town the first day. He didn't get it for 30 days. So then we did a little bit of mopping up and a little bit of sitting tight until July the 25th. That's 6 weeks later. We broke out and steamed across the countryside. By September the 17th, which is 3 weeks later, we were up at the German border. Walking right through the Siegfried line, no opposition, no nothing. We had a little bit of fighting up there. And I went into Aachen, just south of Aachen, a place called Stolberg. I fought to get there, lost a tank or two, and then we sit there till November. From September the 17th to November.
Right.
And in November we had an R&R, where go for R&R, moved back to the rear area and went out to get the beer and stuff like that. And in going after the beer, I took a Jeep and a couple of guys with me, and we got a barrel of beer. We picked it up down in the beer cellar somewhere there. It was in the dark, I never did knew. One of those guys turned around and dropped the beer keg on my foot. Just crushed it.
Oh my.
completely. So I was out for 2 months, 3 months in, before I came back and joined the 1st Infantry
Right.
and finished the war.
Yeah.
We didn't have very much fighting to do. I ended up on the Czechoslovakian border, taking the town of Carlsbad.
Uh-huh.
So from there, very shortly, even while Germany surrendered and we were going through our firing exercises out on the range, immediately getting ready to go to Japan,
Yes.
when they dropped the bomb,
Right.
and we knew the war was over then.
So you weren't near the bulge, or
I missed the bulge, missed the winter completely
yeah.
because of this thing.
Right.
Went back, just barely got there in time to miss the cold
The guy lieutenant who was set up as a replacement for him with his outfit and the rest of the platoon took shelter on Christmas Eve night in a bombed out stone house over there, and one lone 88 shell came in and killed him and wounded most of the other guys. So when he got back to his unit, there was only a few
Yes.
that were there originally.
Right.
Makes you wonder
Yeah.
what happened to take him out.
Right. Oh,
Gave him
absolutely.
back his rest of his life,
Ab-
whereas the guy who took his place lost his.
Absolutely.
That happened time and again, and
Yeah.
I'm sure it causes every guy who's in service to think,
Yeah.
why him and not
Well, the
me?
unit,
Right.
they lost the unit that was within the 4th Army Division. Who I trained with so long, it was the elite division, and they were just cut to pieces several times. So if I'd
Yeah.
stayed with the 4th Armored, I would have had a rough time too. But
What was your specific job? What
well,
was
a tank commander,
You were a tank commander.
lieutenant. I got 5 tanks,
second lieutenant?
25 men,
Mhm.
5 to a tank.
Right.
And of course, if you read the stories about armored spearheads going well across after everybody, and until they hit somebody, and then they stop and fight.
Right.
Well, that's what we were trained to do. But when I joined this 1st Infantry Division, they liked to have us stay with them. They didn't like to be left alone.
Right.
So we ended up changing our tactics to where we became moving pillboxes
Right.
that supported right with the infantry all the way through.
I see.
They liked us,
They were,
we
they,
liked
were,
them.
they were glad to have you, and vice versa.
We were glad to have them because they kept the snipers and the Panzerfaust people from getting our tanks.
Right.
So that's
Right. So you would they would be walking,
yeah,
and you'd be right behind them,
well, right with them.
right with them, just right
Yeah, when they run
alongside.
a strong point, they got an anti-tank gun or a pillbox out there. They'd come up and point it out to us. That's one of the things we did after the war. She was with 6 months before, and he's now got this recon company and doing reconnaissance for the Corps.
I'll be darned.
And out there in the middle of combat with a few bullets flying around, by the way, and he stuck his head out and hollered at me.
Right.
His name was Fowler. Never forget him. He's a good egg.
I just got all the way to Czechoslovakia. I met the Russians, and then they came back into Germany and got ready to go over and fight the Pacific War.
Yeah.
Saw some things on television last night I never knew about the Japanese. They had developed planes that we didn't know they had. We didn't even have any names for those planes. One of them was called the Oscar. I had never heard of that. I heard the Zeros. But it said they had jet planes they were developing in the mountains underneath, and that we could never have knocked them out.
Right.
And that they would have had those things out there, and they had them rigged also to be suicide planes to pick out hospital ships and troop carriers as they came towards Japan to invade. And we would have lost not what they said we were going to lose, it was bad enough what the figure was. But after hearing this guy last night talking about those secret airplanes and secret tunnels they had, we would have lost a heck of a lot more.
Oh yeah.
The atomic bomb
yeah.
was just lucky that we happened to have that.
Right.
It caused them to quit. And the fact that the emperor was willing to listen to one or two generals and say, let's quit, when the other 4 or 5 didn't want to quit.
Right.
And
Right.
That was
If we hadn't dropped the bomb, they'd have got those planes ready,
yeah.
Sure.
and it would have been a tough deal.
That would have been more than a ground war. It'd have
I had no
been
idea that they had developed the jet before we did.
Yeah.
Well, it was sort of a one-upsman type thing because they had the Zero, which could outmaneuver a lot of our planes. The specific plane that I'm familiar with is the Grumman, the F4F. The Zero could outmaneuver it, so they called Grumman and said, "Hey, we need a better airplane." So they made the Hellcat.
That's right.
And the Hellcat came and it could outmaneuver the Zero. And now what you're talking about is jet-powered aircraft that could outmaneuver.
The funny thing is, their Army hated their Navy, and the
Yeah.
Navy had the Zero,
They had the same.
and the Army had the Oscar. They
Right.
had the Oscar, which we didn't hear about because
Fortunately, we didn't have to hear about
we
it.
didn't hear about it.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
Well,
Take me back to. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
There are a lot of human interest
Yeah,
stories
right.
like that.
Right.
On the beach there, for instance, we're just a few square miles, and we had 500,000 soldiers, I guess, on the beach before we had the breakout.
Right.
There were soldiers in every field, everywhere, and we all wore gas masks because they said they might use gas. So we'd been carrying gas masks from the invasion day on, and one night in the middle of the night, somebody drove up with a tank truck, gasoline cans, I guess, and hollered, "Come get your gas!" Well, all somebody heard was gas. And so it started going up the coastline,
Yes.
word of mouth.
Yeah.
Gas! 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 And the whole beachhead put on their gas
Put on a gas
mask.
mask. Yeah.
Because of that thing.
Because somebody had said, "Come get your gas."
So it got to us, and I was on the other side of a muddy field from my tank, where my gas mask was.
Right.
And I tell my kids, I crossed that muddy field without getting my feet dirty.
You were running that fast.
But that'll show you what panic will do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the same kind of panic with civilians
Right.
or with Muslims
Right.
or wherever else.
Right.
They panic. Or hurricanes.
Sure.
We've had some panics with this hurricane.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Go back to D+1 again, and if you could be specific about your landing. The ferries were not there, so you had to.
I came in on the LCT, which
On
is
the
a
LCT, the
full
smaller
tank.
one, right, which was
Yeah.
a smaller one. Did it take you all the way up to the beach?
All the way
or
up to the beach. Didn't even get my feet wet.
Okay,
Yeah,
and your tank came off of the LCT,
LCT.
and what did you find?
There's a trail going up the hill, E1 draw, all ready for us to go up. Of course, the infantry had gone up at hours before ahead of us, and so we went up that thing. And you've seen the classic pictures of the infantry soldiers walking up the side of that hill.
Right.
That was the 2nd Infantry Division. They were not the assault division, but they were already coming in with us.
Right.
And up on top of the bluff, the top of the hill, stocked my tanks, and we dumped our. We had waders on our tank for wading water up to 10 feet deep. Exhaust and intake on the back of the tank. You've seen pictures of those things.
Yes, I have.
Well, we dumped those off for tanks in an open field there. By the way, in that open field, there was a group of officers, 2 stars and up, had maps spread out all over the ground. I mean ground, not tables. They were looking at the maps of what was going on.
Yes.
Of course, we didn't stay there very long. We dumped those things and went on inland and got to our bivouac area and got ready to fight.
But I guess from the day before, you also encountered. It wasn't a pretty sight.
Oh no.
You encountered a lot of human casualty.
On the beach, as we got off the LCTs, somebody told my guy, said, that pillbox is up on top of the hill. It's wiped out up there, all those dead Germans up there. And so all my people wanted to go up and sit, and go up and see the dead Germans.
These are young kids that hadn't experienced death very much.
Yeah,
right?
they had not seen death very much. We had been required to look at all of the not to death camps.
Right.
That was required viewing.
Yes.
So we knew what death was, but they're brand new. They really wanted to go up there and see. So they came back sort of quiet.
I said, yeah, go get your fill of it, right?
But on the beach, beside this path that went up like that, on sundown of the second day, there were 250 bodies in a line in a row of ours.
Of American soldiers.
And of course, we lost 2,800 people killed on that beach. Not our division,
no, but
all the divisions and the British. We lost 3,000 men on the beach.
At not just Omaha, but all the beaches, or was that just
all the beaches?
All the beaches.
Yeah, they said all the beaches.
Yeah, at Normandy.
I think that's right. I could be wrong.
I think that's right.
Might be
I believe that sounds right. I can look that up. You can look that up very easily now. So that was a very sobering thing. You knew that you were in a serious.
And of course, we're running across dead Germans all over the place.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Resistance that you personally encountered in your job. I mean, did you fight a lot of battles?
What now?
Did you fight a lot of battles? You personally with your tank, or did you?
Yeah. Not as much as some of the armored people did,
right?
And the armored spearheads, but we had a lot of light action supporting the infantry.
Right.
I lost a tank on the beachhead, but it was artillery. We got in and settled down there about 7 or 8 miles in, and the infantry's dug in. We're sitting there. The thing we had decided with them was that if you start your tank engines at the middle of the night, what you're going to do is draw artillery fire on the infantry.
Right.
So that's the reason for saying, don't move out of position in the middle of the night. Of course, basic doctrine of tanks, you can't fight at night.
Right.
You can't see.
Yes.
Sights are closed.
Right.
That's what the new tanks have got, of course.
The night vision stuff.
Yeah, light vision on, so they can fight at night now. But
Right.
then you couldn't. And
Right.
so we're sitting there, and here's a counterattack coming in. Lots of artillery fire, some machine gun fire, but not enough for them to break through. So I got a mortar shell on top of my tank. It hit right in front of where I would, if I had my head up, I'd have had my head blown off. But I was bending down, trying to work the radio. Tell my commanding officer, hey, this place is going to go up in smoke. Get me out of here. Of course, that's when we made our decision.
Right.
And the higher command made the decision, we will not move the tanks out in the middle of the night.
Right.
And it was made right that instant.
Exactly.
And we didn't mind because the infantry saved our guts. They saved our neck there.
Right.
But I got up the next morning, and this is an M4 tank, and I'd taken 2 artillery shells, or mortar shells, one or the other. One right in front of the tank commander on top, and the other one right in front of the assistant gunner. The one in front of the assistant gunner, of course, these artillery shells don't pierce. They just blow, make a lot of noise. And it did crack the hull of the tank where it hit in front of the driver. It cracked it and the oil was leaking out. So the tank was out. I had to have a new tank. It was knocked out. And I got this new tank, and of course it was a Jonah. I'd spent weeks tuning that other one up. I knew everything about it, had adjusted all the sights and everything like that, and you give me a new tank right off the shelf, and it was not pleasant. But we went on through. We got down to when we started to break out and close the Falaise Pocket. We were on the other side of the Falaise Pocket, looking down on this valley, and the German army was just streaming out like that. So I said, well, we can get artillery and also use our tank fire, and we can do a lot of damage on those people down there. But they called in to get the fire, and the artillery fire says they don't want you to shoot them. They want to let them go and catch a whole bunch out on the other end, which they did. And so I don't know what it would have excited, counterattack and messed up the thing even more, whatever, but we desisted from fighting there.
Yeah.
And but then when we tried to get into Stolberg, this is Aachen, outside of Aachen there.
You're getting ready to jump off a big cliff or something, you tense up for it. But if you don't know you're going to fall, you'll fall and break a leg. He said the same thing happened. You guys were asleep and didn't know the thing would come in and blow you up, and said it probably messed your ears up.
I did a pretty big study of this hearing loss as a result of my interest and so forth, and I found out that it is true. You can stand a large noise if you're prepared for it. So I think some of these rock band people may be okay, but because they're ready for it. But there's a limit to that.
They're also grinding it away because they keep it too loud.
But I had so many unexpected severe explosions you wouldn't believe. The one on the tank, that's one of them. But every time you fire around from a tank, on the inside there's a blast there. But most of the time you know when the gunner's going to pull the trigger, so you really tense up for it.
Sure.
Now, where you get hurt, most of all, if you're too close to the cone of fire of any gun, whether it's a pistol or a machine gun or a tank gun, if you're within the 45-degree, 90-degree angle from the cone of fire from the muzzle, that's what hurts so much. And that's unexpected usually too. Well, I noticed this on the pistol range. I came off the pistol range, my ears were ringing like mad. And it wasn't my gun. I knew when I was going to pull the trigger, but the guy next to me, I didn't know when he was going to pull it. And also the guy next to you, you're pretty close to the cone of fire. Of course, I got really duty wild when I was looking at teaching machine gun stuff. He said you got to be sure that your gunner doesn't flinch. When he flinches, he blinks his eyes. So I got to where I get almost out in front of the gun and look back to see if the guy flinched when he pulled the trigger. Of course, I was getting myself into the cone of fire real bad.
Sure you were.
So I had lots of reason to lose my hearing. And but it's not as debilitating as I once thought. True, I can't function fully as a musician. I can still sing in the choir. I can still play my horn a little bit. But I really haven't got the fine touch to be able to perform professionally.
VA gave him the Cadillac of the hearing aids, though. He's got one with his little control in his thing. That's
I got a remote control.
They tuned it to his ears.
So you can, if there's stuff you don't want to hear, you can turn it off.
I turn it off. I can adjust the volume up and down. I've got a button for the telephone, so I can cut out one ear and listen with the other on the telephone.
He can sit at a busy restaurant with all the noise going around him. And of course, I've got ordinary hearing aids, and I can't turn anything down, but he can hit his, and all he hears is people right around the table.
Wow.
That's nice.
That's the Cadillac of hearing aids.
He hasn't got a button to shut me off, though.
No remote control for you, huh?
No remote control.
Red Skelton did this one time with his wife going like that, and he happened to stumble and fall and step on the remote of the TV, and when he picked it up and pushed the button, suddenly he couldn't hear her, and her mouth was... The look on his face was beautiful. He finally had... No, one other thing that's happened was Lannes was in England at near Bath and in a town called Frome. He was 20 miles away from where the Hopes came from in 1790 to come to the United States. We didn't know that until we got into hunting genealogy later. We know where they lived, right north of Stonehenge in a village called Kennet. on the Avon River there, and they came on over on the ship. We know the captain's name. They left from Bristol, came to Philadelphia, took land out west of Philadelphia in Chester County, and the first village they had, they named it West Kennet. And the Hopes lived there for 3 or 4 generations, and finally they had enough children that they went down to get new land and went down into the southwest
I thought you were
corner of
going to tell
Virginia.
about the practical jokes we played on each other in England. We raided each other's camps, and one trick was to go to where the people 10 or so miles away, creep up on them and put a little block of TNT in their tent where they're sleeping and set it off.
Losing your hearing.
Well, that does create a commotion.
Sure it does.
So I got 1 or 2 of those. But
he was just 20 miles away from there, and we didn't know him. Of course, we've never gone back to England. He's never gone back to see the remains of D-Day. The cliff is beginning to fall in on where Rutgers much went up.
Yeah, I read about that.
In bad shape.
About Point the Hawk, that it might not be there for
Lots of interesting people have gone and done a lot of good research there, and a lot of good books have been written about it. And we got started one time and went out to Barnes & Noble and started bringing books to our table to look for something, and we just had stacks and stacks of different views of the same problem we were looking up that time.
So when you finished, when you came home, you were preparing to go to Japan, but they dropped the bomb, so you didn't have to. So when did you retire? When did you?
I came out of the military.
Come out of the military, rather.
Just in time for our second wedding anniversary, November 5th of 1945. We married in 43. Yeah. And then he went into Army Reserve and stayed there, and that was our family lack of vacations for years when he went off for his 2 weeks duty, and finally got up to Command General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth and went up there and would do his 2 weeks up there, and he did that several times, a couple of times during the summer up there. Taught Command General Staff's course in our living room to officers who did it by correspondence, and also the Industrial College course. He did that in our living room and down at the Armory. They recently had the young black man, he's a little bit younger than we are, talk on the Buffalo soldiers out at the station.
Were you there?
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
Well, he's an old buddy of mine.
Oh, yeah. He introduced you there. I was sitting on the other side of the room.
He took Lannis's course. Lannis said, was he one that came to the house? I said, no, he was in the one that you taught down at the out at the Armory down there. And but this went on for years. So he did 30 years in the Army Reserve. And
now, where were you all living then?
Waco for the first 10 years of it. Well, no, we were in Austin for 3 years, and then Waco for 10 years, and then the rest of the time here, and all of that time. And while he was in Lubbock, when Korea happened, because he was already going with a reserve unit up there, that's one reason he didn't get picked up and dumped back into Korea like so many did.
I see.
The casual officers, they took to Korea. Those that were in units, they didn't take them, supposedly because they wanted to keep the units intact.
Well, they did take some units.
And they took some units, but I was a casual officer, and on nobody's. I was in this teaching mode, and so they left me there the whole time. Give me promotions all the way through.
So you finished it as what rank?
Colonel.
As a colonel?
Yeah.
So you're a colonel.
I fussed at him for years saying you need to get all the retired colonels, there's a bunch of them together, and keep up with the Army. What's going on? I dropped the glass on that, never replaced it, and was waiting to get, that shouldn't be in there, that needs to be in the other.
But there's 1st Division patch.
Right.
And then this is the National Guard Division I started with.
I can get these pins back on, and he can bring that out with him if you want it.
Well, actually, what I can do, what I'd like to do is take a picture of it. I don't have my camera here, but if you
show her,
I'd like to see what other photographs that you might have.
Okay.
And things. And if I can, what I do is I'd like to take them with me and then give them back to you on Wednesday, because I'll get them photographed to where they'll just pop up on the screen.
Yeah.
This is the one that
That's the later one there.
Yeah. Where's the one that? The one that Barton had.
It's there. I thought it was there a while ago.
Oh, I think I put it somewhere else. I'll go get it. I know what you got. There we are. That's the one he had.
Right. That's the one that's. Let's see what you got there. Yeah, that's a good picture. You look like a movie star.
Yeah, how about
Barton
that?
held that up and says, "Gee, he was a good-looking guy. I guess that's why you fell in love with him." I said, "No, Barton. He played trumpet and I played piano. That's why we fell in love." I said, "Looks had nothing to do with it."
But no, really, you look like Jimmy Stewart or something. I forget what movie star you look like there.
Abel or someone.
Let's see, I was in the 4th Armored Division then.
Yes.
See that 4 there?
Right.
I came back from the desert
Uh-huh.
and had that picture taken. And that's when we got married. We went together and wrote letters for 2 years.
Right.
And I happened to come back to the same post that I spent my enlisted time there. And so we decided to get married. And that's
That's when you got married?
That's the married thing there.
What's on
Those. That's my post-war stuff. Lions Club.
Oh, that's at the World Speedway.
Rodeo. Yeah, I worked for the World Speedway out there for a while.
What were you doing out there?
Taking tickets and managing the crowd.
Yeah.
That's our Lions Club work.
Right. Oh, your Lions Club work.
Yeah. Yeah. This is they gave me for a meritorious medal is this one, where?
Over here. Over there.
That's just a good
This one came out of the blue sky.
conduct.
It's officer's good, this one right here.
Right.
And it came along after my 30 years when they dismissed me finally.
Uh-huh.
That was it. But this is the Army Reserve pin here. 10 years for each bronze thing there. So that
Right.
represents 30 years in Army Reserve.
Right.
His 2 dog tags down there are in there because one of them he's got type O AB blood, and one he's got type A blood. They made a mistake. I said if he had been around the wrong one and they had to give him blood, he would have been in trouble.
You got the wrong
Yeah,
blood.
but that's different.
You know these things, these medals?
Well, I know this is a Bronze Star.
That's the Bronze Star.
Right.
Now you get that. That's the 4th one down from combat,
Right.
and
That
Silver Star.
that fellow who
DSC.
died last week had 3 bronze stars and 2 bronze stars.
Yeah,
Two
3.
Purple Hearts and 3 bronze stars.
Yeah. I clean that off a little bit. Yeah, but this is the European theater. That arrow is for the beachhead, and each little bronze star is for a separate campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make all 7 campaigns
Right.
because I was out that 2-3 months on the 2 of the major campaigns there. This one we call the pie eating ribbon because that's what you got if you were in the war, in the Army before the war.
Mm-hmm.
You got the yellow one. You see that yellow one, that's what it means.
Right. So if you were in the Army before Pearl Harbor.
Before Pearl Harbor.
you got that.
When we came home, we didn't have any clothes.
Right.
So in order to differentiate us from soldiers who were out of the Army, from soldiers who were in the Army, they gave us a ruptured duck. Where's my ruptured duck, baby? I thought I had it on here. I had a, this is, here it is. This is,
Oh, there it is. That looks like a ruptured duck.
yeah, that's it right there. That's it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I could dust those a little bit. Yeah. He's got a picture that they took here in the living room, Peg, of part of this. And it came out real clear.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Yeah, it was.
The other-
What did we do with it?
We're all
Part of the.
One thing that sort of
You had it right there a minute ago.
fascinated the little gal who came, Summer Hamilton, who came to interview us. She was more interested in not his battle stuff, but the fact that we had gotten married and our marriage had stuck. She had just gotten married herself, and she said,
Is that right?
"Well, if you stick it for 2 years without being together." We decided 8:30 on Sunday morning to get married, and the whole town
Is that it?
did their thing, and we were married by 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
No. It's bound to be on this table.
What are you looking for?
Well, it was something that I downloaded from the internet. Maybe it's right here.
that's it.
Yeah, there it is, right here. Right here. Here it is.
We had not seen this top one, Peggy.
Oh, that's nice.
That's a picture of this, of the
Yeah,
medals,
that's
right here.
a good picture. That
All right.
Patrick took that picture, and that was a
Yeah.
nice one.
Yeah, that's
No,
what,
I laughingly told the kids. I said, you know, we did an illegal thing. You're supposed to wait 5 days after you get a marriage license to get married, and we got married an hour later. And they passed him by on blood test because he was an officer and a gentleman, according to the doctor. And
right.
and the pastor of one of the churches canceled his Sunday school class on his wife. Said, "I'll teach it if you'll let me
This
tell
is
you
my,
what you're doing." And we got
Post-war.
married we've been going together off and on for 2 years.
Right.
And so we decided to get married because Patton came out in the desert and said, all you guys who've got wives to come home to have a lot better change at it than those who don't.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why Patton was trying to sell this business, but anyway, he heard that, so we talked it over and decided to get married.
In Germany, after the war was over,
Yes, sir.
we printed this yearbook, I guess you'd call it, of the 745th Tank Battalion. And it covers history, first commanding officer. And we did all of this in England before the beachhead, before we went in, because we knew we'd lose a lot of people. So these were taken after the war was over in Germany. But we had studio type pictures taken.
Are you in one of those pictures?
I would be, but I was ordered back to Paris and missed. This is my unit. I'll show you right here.
You got the big picture over in the middle somewhere of yours.
Yeah. I have Service Company A. That's it.
So you'd already been ordered back to Paris
I ordered back to Paris to be in the court martial. And so I didn't get my picture taken.
You didn't tell him about your duty
Oh,
while
that's
your
another
foot was
story.
About
out
what?
of the boot.
The what?
They sent him in to be in charge of a replacement depot where you had everything from guys who were just lost to black marketers to murderers to everything else.
Yeah.
Well, that was a challenge.
This is the platoon I had.
Right.
That's my platoon sergeant took my place that day for the picture.
I see.
Well, you're in one of the pictures over in the middle of the book.
Oh yeah, I've got them. I won't show them those.
Big one, some back there
big ones.
somewhere.
There's the dead. Well, Peggy, where is it?
Hand it to me and you talk and I'll find the
All
picture.
right, find it for me. Well, that's my graduating class at OCS.
I see.
Every 6 weeks, they graduated a class.
Right.
Every 3 weeks at the infantry school. That was my class. Right there,
There you are.
right there. About 600 of us. A lot of those guys didn't make it back. A lot of those guys didn't make it back.
Oh yeah, that's what you showed me before. That was the
Yeah,
deal in Lubbock.
yeah.
Well, the picture we've got is the one they took over while y'all were all lined up in formal
Yeah.
dress, and I don't know where it is.
Well, there's a copy. There should be a copy of it in there
Okay.
somewhere.
What company were you in? What company were you in?
Hey,
That's what I thought. There's A. They don't have that formal picture. It's somewhere else.
okay. I've got it in the house somewhere.
Yeah.
What's that one?
These are just some
Let's see, that they are.
headshots of
Oh, that's one. That's about pre-war stuff there.
yeah.
Texas Tech band.
That's Texas Tech band right there.
Yeah, Texas Tech band uniform.
Oh my goodness, look at that.
Yeah, I'll put it on here.
I have to put
And
that
this
one
is
on.
Texas Tech band.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Did you go hear the Marine Band?
No, I didn't. I was. They were here this past weekend, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was in Kansas for the football game.
They introduced the local guy who's been in the Marine Band the longest of any of them,
Right.
Irving Peterson. He played saxophone in the high school band at Bryan High School and went to University of Texas.
This
And,
is a high school picture there.
Right.
They made a big deal over introducing him, and everybody was very pleased to have a local guy in the band.
Is one of these guys you with the trumpet?
Yeah.
Is that you there?
Yeah. See if I see. Yeah.
And that was at what, Slayton High School?
That's Slayton High School there.
Uh-huh.
I believe.
Yeah, it's in.
It says Slayton there. I had them taking the
Yeah.
Barker too.
Yeah, it says Slayton.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it.
Music and band music's a big deal to me, of course, all the way
Well,
through.
I played in my high school, and I played snare drum for.
Okay.
In my, I went to a military school from the 3rd grade to the 12th grade in
Which
San Antonio.
military school?
In San Antonio.
Okay,
I went
I know
to
that.
San Antonio Academy and
Yeah.
TMI.
Yeah.
I went to both of them from
TMI.
3rd Texas Military Institute. All the way from the 3rd grade to 12th grade, and
Yeah.
I was in the band the entire time, and I played the snare drum until my last year at each, and I was a drum major.
Yeah.
After that, I did the baton. Played the bass drum one year also.
Yep.
But I did that. Had a bad
You ever
director
do
named-
any trap drumming?
No,
Never did do that.
no. Just did the snare. And let me see what you got there.
There he is right there.
Okay.
That's the assault group.
Which one are you?
Next to the last on the back row.
Right there?
Yeah. Look, those guys from Texas, we lost one of them. These two right here, how about that? They're standing next to each other.
Uh-huh.
Children action. But every unit, not only ours, but everyone in the whole army had this kind of picture taken in England before they made the invasion.
Right.
So there'd be a record of it. Now that's a picture of the
So
beach.
this was taken in England?
Yeah, the second.
Just in the
in our
summer of
camp.
'44, right before the invasion?
Yeah,
That's before he let his mustache grow to be a
yeah.
big long
This
one.
is a picture of the beach.
Yes.
The way it looked when we went in. See, we were after all of the big to-do was there, and here we are coming off of the LST,
LST.
coming on.
Backing off of it
Yeah.
to get onto the LCT.
Yeah, yeah. That was quite an operation. But here you see the air ducts on the back of every tank there.
Was the LST the same as what they call the Higgins boat?
Yes,
That's the same.
800 feet long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's,
right.
it's an
Higgins.
ocean-going vessel.
Right. Right.
We lost 3 of them before the war, you know, to the German E-boats. where is that thing I had? All those mistakes we made. Down where we're doing the practice landings in the southern coast. 3 German torpedo boats snuck in there and got them.
Yeah.
They lost 800, almost 800 people. Well, I
Quite
don't
a
know
story.
what you want to do.
I see him every once in
Didn't
a while.
know him personally. He was just a child almost.
Right. He was the youngest. He's the youngest, I guess.
Yeah.
And I had the honor of meeting Mrs. Rudder on a couple of occasions.
Yeah.
Well, that's our visit with Lannes Hope. It happened on October the 26th, 2005. Lannes Hope, a witness to D-Day from just offshore. Lannes Hope, thank you for your service, and thank you for tuning in to Brazos Valley Voices. I'm Tom Turbyville.
You've been listening to Brazos Valley Vets. Log on to bcsball.com for information on the next episode.